Today I'm going to show you guys how to fix a crazy cracked out zombie. Hey guys, welcome to Phlearn. My name is Aaron Nace. You can find me on Twitter at AKNacer. Phlearn is the #1 resource for helping you guys get better at Photoshop and photography. Today we're taking an image that was just done poorly. There's no nice way to say it. This image was not retouched well. It's obvious the person doesn't watch a lot of Phlearn. So we're gonna fix it. And in fixing it, I'm gonna show you guys some of the do's and don'ts and talk about how they messed up. And it's gonna help you guys in your retouching. And it's just gonna be kind of fun because, well, we get to make fun of it a little bit. That's fun, right? Before we get into it, I wanna say congratulations to Ursa who won the battle, the last fire battle. And guys, we're still doing the battle. We need your guys' entry. So on Flickr, be sure to tag your images with Phlearn battle, one word, and your images can be up for battling each other, and it's a lot of fun. So I can't wait to see those. We're gonna get into it because we got a ton to do. Okay, so this is our image, and we really have a lot to do. Let me go ahead and start off by just kind of highlighting some of the different areas that are done poorly. One of the big things, when people try to make things go a little bit darker, go into shadow, you wind up getting what looks like this a lot of the time. You wind up getting what looks like dirt is on the person, like someone smeared dirt or some kind of thing on them. You see it here in the face as well, and you know, here, you see it there under the eyes. This is a result of using the wrong color to kind of draw something into shadow. Usually they're using black. If you use black or a dark gray and drag over it, it desaturates the skin, but it desaturates it too much. Look at my face, for instance. We have highlight color, you know, we have mid-tone color, and then we have like shadow color. I don't know what you're seeing, but we have shadow color on my skin, but it never goes to like gray, and my skin never goes to like black. Even, you know, even in the darkness, it still has some color. So really be sure to not ever do that. We have a problem with her breast is a little bit angular. It's kind of pointy. If you looked at this from the side, it would look like that. So we're gonna fix that as well. The color overall is just not good. There's just too much green, and it's just not a good color. And the eyes, again, are a little bit too bright. They come off as light sources, so we're gonna fix that as well. And how this happens with the skin color, basically the person who retouched this, they grabbed a color, they painted all over there and just changed, if there were, you know, color inconsistencies in the skin, they just changed that blending mode to color and said, okay. But you can't do that because different, you know, people have different color skin, all, you know, in the highlights and the shadows, and making it all the same color just makes them look really flat and not good. So let's start off by, I'm gonna grab a levels adjustment layer. We're gonna fix these eyes because they're really bothering me. They look like light sources, and that's just not good. So we're gonna click on our levels, and I'm just gonna grab this slider right here, the lightest point, and drag it down to right about there. And we're gonna put a little bit of red in those eyes as well, because there's red in people's eyes. So there we go, that looks pretty good. On our layer mask, I'm gonna hit Command I, and then we're just gonna paint white right here where her eyes are. There we go. And if that's a little bit too much, which in this case it is, you just lower your opacity a little bit. There we go. So you can see already her eyes don't look like light sources, and we're looking quite a bit better. Now, we still need to darken parts of her face just a little bit. I'm gonna play around with this. Everything is so fine too when you're dealing with skin and faces, but we're gonna darken her face, and that's gonna make her eyes look brighter in contrast rather than just brightening her eyes so much. Okay, let's fix this area here. The next thing we're going to do, I'm gonna grab an adjustment layer. Well, no, tell you what, we'll just use a regular layer. I'm gonna use the skin color. So we'll use the brush tool, grab her skin color, and just kind of paint directly over this area here, okay? Now, when a person's skin goes into shadow, it gets a little bit more red. So we're gonna change this from normal, we're gonna change it down to color. Okay, now I'm gonna hit Command U because we need to desaturate that. So skin color does, you know, it does lower in saturation as you go into shadows. It also becomes a little more red. It just doesn't go to, you know, black and white. And that's basically what was going on before. All right, and here as I drag my, sorry, my computer's being a little bit slow here. Drag it a little bit towards red. There we go, maybe at a -5 or so. Okay, we're looking a little bit better. So we can see now we have some actual color in the shadows. It's not just going straight to, you know, to gray. So we've got color, and we need to add highlight information back over top of that. So we're going to grab a highlight from our skin, paint it here, double click on the highlight area, and I'm going to grab the underlying layer, drag from the left to the right, and this is going to make it only visible where the underlying layer is lighter. There we go. And we'll just lower the opacity just a little bit there. Okay, cool. So we now have highlight information over top of the shadow information. And we have what looks like a much more natural transition. So there's the before. You can see it's grayed out and it looks a little bit weird. And there's our after. We're going to be doing more color work in a minute, so we're going to get to it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is fix your breast, because it's not angular. It's really easy to fix this. We just grab the shadow color. Let's choose a nice soft edged brush, and I'm just going to paint right over here. There we go. You know what? I'm going to erase this, and we're going to use a lower flow. So take my flow down to about 10%. That's just going to give me a little bit more control as I paint over there. There we go. And then just take your eraser tool or a layer mask, whatever you want, and then just erase away. So we're just kind of rounding that shape out. It's all about playing with light. I mean, think of this as a sphere. Highlight goes gradually into shadow. There would be, you know, no angle there. Okay, if you did want to make her breasts look bigger, which I don't know why you would, they're already huge, you could just grab a highlight color, and then instead of, you know, just drawing like a line and being like, okay, that's what they look like, do, you know, something that's a little bit more round. Let's just drag that. There we go. So something a little bit more round. It's going to look a little bit more natural and still look good. But I'm going to delete that layer because I think they're big enough. Next thing we want to do, I want to retouch part of this area on her face. Their cheekbones are they're carved way too much, and it's not helping, not a good look. So to do this, I'm grabbing my brush tool, and I'm basically just sampling this color right here next to the area that was carved, and just painting it in. There we go. Let's just zoom out. I normally like to work zoomed out, especially when I'm doing something global like this, where, you know, you have to really look at the shape of a person's face. It helps me to be a little bit more zoomed out. There we go. So we took care of that side of her face. And keep in mind, guys, I'm doing this really quickly. If it were, you know, a real edit, well, first of all, I would never be doing this because I wouldn't have edited it wrong and then edit right over top of it. But usually I take a bit more time. This is just, I'm doing it quick because it's live. There we go. And we're going to take away this little thing here because it looks kind of weird. Okay, looking good. And now let's go ahead and make another layer. And with this layer, I'm going to take care of some other areas like her, you know, face. And I'm not trying to completely get rid of any of the shadows or anything like that. I just want to kind of knock them down in intensity because it reads more like creases in her skin than anything else. And generally you don't want creases in people's skin, especially if they're not, you know, especially if they're a model. Okay, looking good. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to grab a brush tool, and we talked about earlier grabbing shadow color. So let's grab some shadow color, and I'm just going to kind of paint right over here. Let's grab a little bit lighter shadow color and come into the face a little bit more. A little bit darker shadow. There we go. Okay, now we're going to erase that out over top of the hair, and this is going to help that area look as though it's getting darker. And let's just erase it where the cheek is. Okay, so it's kind of wrapping that area around just a little bit more. Very nice. Now let's go ahead and start taking care of some color. Let's group all those layers. Let's take care of some color because, like we said earlier, a person's face goes into shadow, you're going to get that color. So I'm going to grab a hue saturation adjustment layer. We're just going to go to our saturation and pump that up, and our hue, we're going to take that down a little bit. There we go. Looks good. And what I want to do is make this only visible on the shadows. Let's just change it just a little bit. Only visible on the shadows. And to do that, it's really not hard. Just go to your layer mask, go to image, down here to apply image, and then we want to make sure we click invert. If you don't, it'll make it visible where your highlights are. So invert, and hit OK. Let's hold Alt or Option and click to see what it's actually giving us. So you can see where our highlights are. It's not visible. This layer is visible where our shadows are. We'll just do this a couple of times because I want to kind of lessen this effect. 3 times should do it just fine. All right, let's drag the saturation down a little bit more. Okay, there we go. And you can see that instead of the shadows just getting all desaturated and weird, they're actually going to a deeper red. I'll adjust that just a little bit more. They're going to a deeper red, which is how skin works. So it's starting to look a lot more natural again. And all this stuff would have been present in the original anyway. It's just, you know, it was removed. Let's go to hue saturation. We need to change her overall skin color as well now. To do that, just go down to your reds, grab an eyedropper, click on her skin, and here we're just going to pump that down a little bit to take a little bit of that, like, green out of her skin. There we go, and you can see that's working a little bit better. Okay, now the color that's here on down in that area that we added earlier, it's a little bit too strong still, especially in combinations with these other layers. So I'm just going to lower those opacities just a little bit. It's kind of bugging me. All right, there we go. And we're looking quite a bit better. So there's not a whole lot more I would want to do to this image. I am going to add a little bit of brightness to her face just here in the middle. Well, we're going to do 2 things. First thing, I'm going to add, we're going to take away some of the brightness, and then I'm going to re-add it, and I'm going to tell you why. We're going to take it away because the face here, it was sculpted, but it was sculpted in a way that's just not correct. They painted highlights where highlights should not be, and that's why it looks very funny. So I'm painting over there. Let's just lower the opacity, and then we're going to use that apply image on a layer mask again. Image down to apply image, and this time we don't want to check invert because we want this only visible where the highlights are. And so what I did is I took a mid-tone color and I popped it over the highlights. There we go, and that's just going to drag those highlights down a little bit so we don't have that crazy amount of contrast there. Now we're going to grab a curves adjustment. We're going to make a little bit darker here. Invert that. There we go. Kind of paint this in. This is kind of, I think, what they were trying to do to begin with. And we'll just hit apply image because, again, I don't want that to be visible on the, there we go, on the highlights. So not visible on the highlights. Do this a couple times. Okay, now we're going to go back and add highlights one more time. So we're just going to do it in a more natural way. So we're going to add these highlights. I'm going to go to our curves. We're going to click the RGB, and I'm going to just drag this up a little bit. All right, and now we're going to take the red channel, and I'm just going to click it down so we have just a little bit less red in our highlights. And then we'll use apply image as well. We're using apply image a lot today because I think it's fun. And you can just kind of like layer these effects on top of each other. Apply image basically just takes a snapshot of the entire image and applies it to the layer mask. And the more times you do it, the more of an effect you'll get. So subtle effect there, but now we have different colors for the highlights, for the shadows, and for the midtones as well, which I think is really great. All right, this is still a little bit too dark there, but we're looking really good. I mean, we're looking quite a bit better than what we started with, I think. Let's grab a curves adjustment layer here just at the very end. I'm gonna grab our RGB. We're just gonna drag that up. There we go. And kind of paint this visible in the shadows in some of these areas where they, again, where they were carved out a little bit too much. All right. Looking good. And now we're just going to grab a curves adjustment layer and kind of drag this down, and we'll pull the reds down a little bit. And I'm going to make this visible here down in the bottom area, but not where the highlight is. So I'm using my layer mask now to mask that away. All right, and we'll lower our opacity. So kind of some difficult things I've had to do today, basically to fix a bad edit, but I think we did a great job with it. Let's just look at our original. So this is our before you can see how unnatural the skin color looks, how it's just one color all the way through the highlights, midtones, and shadows, and how there's no saturation here in the shadows as well. We're running to that error here with the breast, and again with the eyes. So fixing our eyes, fixing most of the skin, and then doing our color work on over top of everything. And just lower that opacity just a little bit so we don't get as much color in there. All right, perfect. And I think we look great, much better than when we started. So again, there's a before and our after. Cool. Well, guys, that's the end of today's episode. Thanks so much for watching Phlearn. I hope you enjoyed this. And there are plenty of retouching jobs out there, and you can probably get one of those because you guys watch Phlearn. I'll Phlearn you guys later. Bye, everyone. Actually, I've just become aware of box breast syndrome, where 0.001% of women actually do have angles on their breasts. Look it up.